Andrew Ng considers AI to be as transformational as electricity. And there's, of course, a lot of evidence for it in today's lives, right? From getting your traffic fines to recommending your next meal to finding drivers near you. And so AI is definitely engaging in or playing a big role in decision making for a lot of people. And what is happening because of that is people are also becoming more wary of how AI is affecting their lives. And a lot of questions surrounding proactiveness, protection, fairness, and responsibility are starting to come. And so, what I want to talk about today is what is going on in the AI space regarding fairness, responsibility, and ethical AI in general. Now, it's important to know that a lot of computer scientists and data scientists are working on these issues. And a lot of it is about developing governance principles regarding how data is mined and principles and technology to help interpret results, right? So this would go under interpretable AI as such. And the aim is to help practitioners understand where these results are coming from. Now, one of these things, of course, is coming from the fact that a lot of people just don't understand what is going on. There's a comment by a Federal Reserve governor who talks about how, given any kind of algorithm, it's possible that even the person who's writing the algorithm has no clue about what goes in and what are the variables and what led to the results. And that's essentially what is prompting a lot of people to work on these issues. Now, the core of the problem, of course, is there's a lot of bias from, the training data or how we have set up the algorithms. One example or use case that people talk about a lot is the use of a resume screening application by Amazon in 2014. Now, in this setup, what Amazon wanted to do is essentially automate the processes that it uses to screen out applicants based on their resumes. Now, we know that in the past, tech jobs in general tended to prefer men over women. And what the algorithm did is essentially use the data and started screening out more women out of the jobs. Okay, in fact, the article that is based on talks about how women were definitely not preferred over men, right? And so that essentially creates a disincentive or a bias against women, and this goes against some of the policy issues and things that we as society want to curb against. The other big issue or example that people talk about is how we are also constrained by the data that we have. Okay. People are starting to ask what is going on, why do we need to rely on algorithms, especially if it's going to perpetuate or even increase the biases that we see in society. One ready example that you can see is in terms of the credit cards that you are provided, kind of bank loans that you're eligible, and these problems can be exacerbated by AI based systems. So what is going on in this space, of course, is that a lot of people are coming up with algorithms that are more interpretable. So figuring out how to make people understand what is going on and what is coming out. People are coming up with bias metrics or bias aware metrics, which kind of tell us, okay, how biased is the algorithm? Do we really need to put in all the factors or only a few factors contributing to the overall prediction? So there's a lot of work that's happening in the computer science and the data science space. But I do want to take a step back and say, okay, what does this mean to CTOs and business leaders as well? Okay. Now, if you notice that, trust, fairness, responsibility is not a technology problem. It's a social science problem. And so what business leaders should start thinking about is to see how to integrate tech with social science as such. Now, one of the things that I would definitely recommend to most people is to start treating AI as a cooperative act. Stop seeing it as a tech-based solution and start integrating it with other applications. People who are essentially your naysayers. Have some humans play a devil's advocate. to identify what are the problems that are going on and why they would not trust these results. The second thing that I would recommend for CTOs and businesses is to start treating AI as a trade-off function between utility and value. We know there's a lot of predictive and business value with AI-based systems. But the trade-off should be, okay, is it marginalizing certain sections of society? Is it going against what the company believes in? So there should be a clear understanding of what is it that the firm or the company believes in. And in education, across the organization, especially to data scientists, on what is acceptable in terms of utility and when value is being breached. Right? And that brings me to the third big point in this setup, which is about responsibility. Right? It's essentially saying that there are some ideals that cannot be sacrificed in pursuit of value or business. Right? And that again should be made very clear. Like, if the algorithm is creating a bias against minorities or gender specific discrimination, then the company must be able to stand back and say, okay, this is something that is not acceptable as a principle for us. Now, why is all of this important? Because at the end of the day, remember, the consumers are not going to blame the algorithms, they're going to blame the brand. And so it's important to understand how they're going to affect your business and then make these solutions acceptable. Now, I just want to end by saying that this requires a concerted effort. There are companies which are having these guidelines. There are legal guidelines that are also being issued. So the European Union has started talking about AI governance. Singapore has a set of AI governing rules. So a lot of countries are going to come up with this. We all understand the value of AI. I love being in an automatically driven car. I love the fact that the meals are already prepared for me, or that Amazon is able to provide a lot of precision. I get one-day delivery and other things. So the value of AI is clearly there. But what's important is the balance it has against its interaction with humans. And as long as we're able to create that, I believe that we can be as transformational as what Andrew Ng was thinking AI would be.